Well, it finally happened. We talked about it a few weeks ago when they fired Mike Brown, and we talked about it a few months ago when they hired Rich Paul. But De'Aaron Fox has unofficially requested a trade from the Sacramento Kings, according to Shams Charania of ESPN. The San Antonio Spurs, are one of the teams positioning themselves to trade for the former All-NBA guard, that coming from Sam Amick and Anthony Slater of The Athletic. The Los Angeles Lakers, as they want to do in these things, have put their name next to the guard. The Houston Rockets, they are always associated with the next biggest trade target just because of how deep their coffers are. They are also there, despite Rafael Stone coming out saying he doesn't want to do anything mid-season multiple times this year. On that, actually, Sam Story wrote an article for thedeep2.com where he gives his opinion on whether the Rockets should make a move this deadline, big, small, or medium, I guess. Check that out. Can't believe it's that simple. Deep2.com. Other teams who have attached their name to the guard, we have the Brooklyn Nets, for whatever reason. The Orlando Magic and the Miami Heat have also been mentioned in various actual reports about the guard. But let's talk about what might happen now that we finally have a piece of evidence that Rich Paul has spoken to it sounds like Rich Paul has spoken to the Sacramento Kings for months and months and months, but he's finally said his client wants to be traded and he is prioritizing winning basketball games. So let's say that is his first priority. Secondly, we have to assume that his second priority, or maybe it is his first, but he is saying that he wants to make his money. And in my opinion, for De'Aaron Fox to make his money, I think if he became a free agent right now, every single team would be lining up. If all money's equal, every team would be lining up to give him his max contract. The problem is, he, being a former All-NBA guard, believes that he can be an All-NBA guard in the future. And by the time he wants his contract to be up, he wants to be in that discussion because then he's eligible for the Supermax extension, which is worth so much more money than just a regular max extension. So to get there, De'Aaron Fox needs to either be the MVP, the Defensive Player of the Year, or on an All-NBA team. And as the Sacramento Kings currently stand, and where, if all things remain equal, I think they will stand for the remainder of his contract, where they are right now doesn't make him good enough to be on an All-NBA team. So he's the 1A, 1B, 1 or second option on this team with Domantas Sabonis, and they're just not going to make any noise in the playoffs, where we often see voters sort of favor last year's standings as well, sort of say, hey, look, we'll reward you for this massive season you had before, but other than that, maybe the massive playoffs you had before, but if you're not going to do well in the prior season, which I don't think the Kings can do, you sort of have to have an incredible regular season, and we've seen the Kings already have their incredible regular season a couple of years ago where they were first in offense and finished second in the West before losing in the first round to the Golden State Warriors. I don't see that happening anytime in the future, and I believe Rich Paul and De'Aaron Fox also don't see that happening in the future, so thus this trade request has come through. So I think the trade that De'Aaron Fox wants is somewhere where he will become more of a contender than he currently is with the Sacramento Kings. The first name that comes up is obviously the San Antonio Spurs, because you might not know this, but they have this really tall French guy called Victor Wembanyama, and if he's not in the discussion this year for MVP and Defensive Player of the Year, he will be next season, almost assuredly. And De'Aaron Fox will just be an amazing second fiddle next to Wemby. His strengths and his weaknesses, both as a player and at their positions at the 1 and the 5, just complement each other perfectly. De'Aaron Fox turned 27 last December. Happy birthday, Swiper the Fox. They would be in their primes together. Let's say at the minimum, Fox's prime is going to last until he's 32, right? Where we usually see just human beings drop off from a basketball perspective. He's going to be in his prime for the next 5 years. That is 5 years of knocking at the door for the San Antonio Spurs, irregardless of who else they bring in. But the problem is De'Aaron Fox can become an unrestricted free agent in the 2026 offseason, and the Spurs, as it currently sits, will have more than one max slot open that offseason. That's also before Victor Wembanyama, his assumed max extension would kick in. So the Spurs, just before Wemby can get properly paid, are going to have enough cap space to sign De'Aaron Fox plus a very good player and then go into the offseason with all of their trade assets. So if they were to trade for De'Aaron Fox right now, they'd be giving up, look, you're trading for an All-NBA, like a very, very good guard in his prime who doesn't really have any health concerns. you're trading for a guy like that, you're going to have to give up some really premium assets, whether that be a couple of blue chip prospects like your Stephen Castle. I don't know if Devin Vassell's still talked about like that, but he would be one of the salaries outgoing here, plus all of your future first round picks. Those picks probably aren't worth as much because the picks are going to be tied to Wemby, and Wemby's very good. So then you're going to be giving up your good assets. Like, they got those pick swaps with the Minnesota Timberwolves on draft night when they traded the 8th pick, Rob Dillingham, to the Minnesota Timberwolves. They've also got Chicago's pick at some point, whether that be this year or next year. That's going to be quite costly. So the Spurs, I think what we're going to see in the next couple of weeks, right up until the February 6th trade deadline, is we're going to see the Spurs say, okay, sick, we really want you. Here's Zach Collins, Keldon Johnson, like a couple of firm handshakes and a bag of chips. Here's what we will give you. The Kings will obviously turn around and say, no, that's not good enough. We want everything that's not tied down. Like pretty much anything. They would love Wemby, but they're not going to get Wemby. So then the Sacramento Kings would say, all right, well, we're going to go to one of these other teams. One of these other teams that around the league have also said that they would like a very, very good basketball player. Let's say they go to the Houston Rockets. Houston Rockets, who Raphael Stone again has said he doesn't want to make a trade during the season. But if the trade is Amen Thompson, Reed Shepherd, maybe some of Phoenix's future first round picks, and then just fill a salary in the form of pick one of their backup centers like Jock Landale, right? That you could get there pretty closely in terms of getting together a good package. Amen Thompson, Reed Shepherd would be an incredible starting package for a team trying to rebuild, but like the Rockets said they don't want to do that. So then you've got Miami Heat. I could talk about a potential Jimmy Butler swap, but no, that's just changing one dude who doesn't want to be there for another guy who probably doesn't want to be there as well. So is there a package based around Tyler Hero plus some Miami future first round picks and like any young players that they like? Like, are the Kings like falling over themselves to get Khalil Ware? Probably not. I don't think that's anything that the Spurs are scared of outbidding them for. The Orlando Magic would offer their entire future first round picks. I don't think they have any major incoming draft picks. It would be just Orlando's future. Again, you have to assume Orlando with Paolo and Franz Wagner, and then they're going to add De'Aaron Fox. Those picks are probably going to be in the late 20s. That's going to be a good team. You don't really want that. Does Jalen Suggs move the needle? Tristan Da Silva, again, that probably doesn't outbid the Spurs. You look at the usual teams that have a lot of future first-round picks, like the Utah Jazz or the OKC Thunder. These teams have to be mentioned, but both of those teams on opposite ends of the spectrum, it just doesn't fit their timeline or their play style or who they want to be. So those teams are out of it. Brooklyn, their name was tied to this. What are they even doing? What are they even offering? Like Ben Simmons and Brooklyn's future picks, and then Fox, I guess he just leaves in free agency on another team. That they're not doing that. Like the Los Angeles Lakers, the old faithful, like whack out the old 31 pick swap, and it used to be Taylor Horton Tucker. Now I guess it's Austin Reeves and Max Christie. I don't think that scares the Spurs. So I think what we're going to see over the next couple of weeks is that the Spurs are like, okay, we're going to lowball you. You're going to say no. You're going to scour the rest of the market. The rest of the market isn't going to have a great offer because it's really hard to cobble together $40+ million worth of salary plus assets to get. If you're including salary, you're probably including bad salary. So then you need to compensate the team for taking the bad salary. They're going to look around and go, well, no, we're not going to offer our best offer. We're just going to wait because the timeline for the Spurs is, if we don't make a trade now, let's just wait an off season and then wait another deadline and then we can sign him for free and then head into that off season, signing De'Aaron Fox for free. Yes, Fox wouldn't get the money that he would want, but that's why he's agitating for a trade now. He wouldn't get the money, but then all of a sudden the Spurs have Wemby, they have Fox under contract, and they have all of their future trade chips that they can then trade for the third piece or just like a couple of really good fitting pieces around them. And all of a sudden they're set up for the next 5+ years to contend. Whereas the Kings are like, okay, well, we've got this distressed asset. We don't want to move De'Aaron Fox for just a bag of chips because we think, and rightly so, with 2 years or 1.5 years remaining on his contract, that'll give them would give that team his bird rights to re-sign him. They want they want to be paid properly for giving up this guy, and like maybe paid properly to them because the Kings have always prioritized winning in the immediate. Maybe paid properly to them means getting back like some legitimate players who can help and maybe make a playoff push around Domantas Sabonis. I think that would be wrong in them doing that, but yeah, they deserve a serious package for this. So my prediction is that unless Houston pulls their finger out, or if any other team with spending power, I can't really think of any. It's Sean Carroll on a podcast. I have to mention the Golden State Warriors. Would that Jimmy Butler package, but swap out Kuminga for Pods, get it done? Like, Pods, Wiggins, Gary Payton, Kevon Looney. All of a sudden, you've got a roster spot crunch. It's like, is that really worth it? Steph, no, the Golden State Warriors aren't there. Unless it's pretty much Houston. If Houston are like, oh my God, we have to make a move right now. We're second in the West. I don't think they're going to make a move. They're very comfortable. They could also wait until the offseason. It's also easier to make a 5-for-1 trade in the offseason because roster spots don't matter, because you don't have to show up to a game the next Tuesday. I don't think Houston is going to want to make a trade mid-season. I think the vibes are immaculate right now. Amen Thompson just had a career high in points, and he's looking like a future all defensive player, if not all NBA player. So if he's not in the offer, then who's in the offer? The Spurs can just play the waiting game and sign him outright. I think De'Aaron Fox, who has unofficially requested a trade through the king of unofficially requesting a trade, Rich Paul, I think De'Aaron Fox wants to get out, but I don't think there's anywhere for him to go this trade deadline. And a lot of it, there will be players in the offseason, there will be players in the following offseason, but after February 6th, my prediction is that De'Aaron Fox will still be wearing purple and black and white, and he's going to be very upset while doing it. The Kings are probably going to make the play-in, and De'Aaron Fox might be a part of that, might not be a part of it. He hasn't really been part of this recent surge. But it's a bit grim up until he does find his way onto a very good team. Anyway, that's my thoughts that I wanted to get out there. So thank you very much for listening. Make it a great day.
You want to talk WNBA? Maybe some WNBL? Australian Opals chat? Heck, even dabble in some EuroLeague? Find the W Basketball Show on the Deep 2 Podcast Network.
The Jeff Van Gundy Tribute Show is your fortnightly dose of the lighter side of basketball, hosted by me, Marco.
And me, Lucas. We take a more laid-back approach, talking about the NBA, the WNBA, FIBA basketball, culture, whatever tickles our fancy or grinds our gears.
The show is filled with great guests, classic gags, and a healthy dose of tangents in honour of the great man himself.
The Jeff Van Gundy Tribute Show, fortnightly on the Deep 2 Podcast Network.
Loves just talking about the league, certain things like that.